Tonight, crashing waves and deadly winds. Hurricane Melissa continues its march through the Caribbean, battering Cuba and leaving a trail of devastation across Jamaica. The latest on the recovery efforts, and a historic peace deal on the brink of collapse as Israel launches a new round of deadly strikes in Gaza. The accusations from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump's warning to Hamas.
And if they're good, they're going to be happy, and if they're not good, they're going to be terminated.
And shutdown countdown. The pressure's building for lawmakers, with more than 40 million Americans days away from losing crucial food assistance. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Hurricane Melissa carves a trail of destruction through the Caribbean, killing at least 30 people. Good evening from CBN's Washington News Bureau. I'm John Jessup. Well, dubbed the storm of the century, Hurricane Melissa made its way through Cuba today. The system that pummeled Jamaica Tuesday, weakening to a Category 2 storm while still packing 120-mile-an-hour winds and a potential storm surge of up to 12 feet. Meanwhile, recovery efforts are underway in Jamaica as officials get a clearer view of the widespread damage across the island. 500,000 people are without power after the storm brought a wall of water and damaging winds that ripped off roofs from homes and even hospitals. At least one person was killed after a tree fell on a home, and that was a baby. Prime Minister Andrew Holness called the entire island a disaster area. One couple visiting the island for their dream wedding described the terrifying ordeal.
I don't know if you can hear our surroundings a little bit here, but it is pounding. A few windows are broken. A lot of water is coming in, so we're just basically pushing that towels and stuff at the doors like that coming in. And the level of noise is ridiculous. Trees have already bended over and flew away, and some of our roof is currently off.
Jamaican officials hope to reopen the island's airports by Thursday. Meanwhile, the United States began deploying disaster response teams to the area earlier today. Melissa is expected to hit the Bahamas next. Well, Jessica Pope was on vacation in Jamaica with her husband Shelley when Hurricane Melissa hit. Thankfully, they're both safe, and they join us now to share what they experienced. Welcome to both of you. I understand that you've been in Jamaica for about a week prior to the storm hitting yesterday. Starting with you, Jessica, can you describe what you're seeing right now around you, and what's the situation on the ground where you are?
So right now, the weather is beautiful. But the resort we're in the Sandals South Coast, outside, I think, White House, Jamaica, Westmoreland is the area we're in, and it's destroyed, every inch of it. The buildings are standing, lots of flooding, so we're drying out our room. Oh, sorry, that's the wind. We're trying to dry the room out. We have windows open and everything, so our floors were flooded. But every inch of the ground it's just decimated. We can't leave the resort. I don't know what it's like outside of here. I imagine it's just awful. I can't imagine.
You know, and no need to apologize. Thank you so much for making time for us, and we understand what you're trying to do is air out and dry out everything with the doors open and the windows open. You know, Shelley, this hurricane came ashore with 185 mile-an-hour winds. That's stronger than Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. Can you tell us what you were doing when the storm hit, where you were, and what precautions did you take?
So technically, we had everything bolted down, windows closed, stayed away from that. It was kind of sat on the bed, but the pressure and the wind of the water is literally coming from the door, and it leaked through the cracks, and it just the whole floor started flooding. So the wind was pushing so far, it came through the middle of the door. It's just
like a sprinkler.
Sprinkler through the door. So basically, we put a whole bunch of towels. We tried to block it. We started bringing them out on a regular, trying to get water out of it. Just did that process over and over again. The outside was still blowing a little bit. You see things flying around, shingles, the roof was coming off. But it got crazy was when the eye of the storm, we thought we were set for a few minutes. It was crystal clear outside, beautiful. The sun was blue. When you see the outskirts of everything was like dark and gray. Then we just started focusing on the front door. Then all the wind started coming from the backside of the balcony, and it flooded our room. That was basically flooded on the inside and just started wringing everything out with towels and just kept drying over and over again.
We just got out of bed. Our friends next door, we're here with two other couples. They their windows blew out and they were stuck in their bathroom, and so we heard them screaming when the wind died down, and he went over and helped get them over here.
Yeah, we had to break him out of their door. He wasn't strong enough to open it, so I helped him force it out, got him out of the room, and his wife over here to hang out with us for the evening. Thank God we're super close.
Yeah.
How high up are you all? Are you at ground level, or are you?
Third floor.
We're on the third floor. Sandals put all of us in one central building, and then nobody was on the first floor. Everybody's second floor up. The people on the fourth floor, the roof, you were watching it blow off like paper.
Wow.
So their rooms, they probably had the worst of it. A lot of those windows blew out. They didn't have a roof. The ceilings were open. We have leaks in our room, like our bathroom leaked, and that's where we would have gone if we really had to get away from the windows. We just would have been wet.
A twofold question for you before we leave. Can you describe the moment that you felt like the worst had passed? What was that like for you? And maybe share with us if there was any prayer that was going through your mind. What were you praying?
Oh my gosh, I'll tell you this. I'm a hospice nurse, and one of our chaplains said, I pray that God uses this and protects people in a way that everyone will know that only God could have done that. So I just prayed that, and that he did that for us, for sure. It's hard to say that, though, when you think of outside these grounds, the rest of the Jamaicans, because he protected them as well, but it feels weird to say we were protected more. Our situation was just different. The privilege was different, and that's what I pray.
Shelley, I'll give you the final thought.
See, we are very blessed to be here, and the Jamaicans and everybody here at this resort has served us hand and foot, and they don't have to. We've had food. We've had everything we needed, more and then some that we didn't really want. So we're trying to help go out and clean, pick up stuff, whatever they want us to do, but they won't let us do it. Man, we're truly blessed. Yeah, we're going to figure out something. We're going to be here for a week or so. I can't sit in this couch and do nothing.
Jessica, Shelley, thank you so much for taking time out of your time there in Jamaica, and I'm just grateful for you all being safe and how you're being a light to those in Jamaica.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
You too. Well, from the storm's destruction in the Caribbean to rising tensions in the Middle East, a fragile ceasefire is still in place in Gaza despite a night of heavy Israeli airstrikes across the Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the military campaign, accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire by handing over the partial remains of a hostage recovered earlier in the war instead of one of the 13 deceased hostages who remain in Gaza. Israel also accuses Hamas of staging the recovery and says an Israeli soldier was shot and killed on Tuesday. Now, Hamas denies killing that soldier and, in turn, accuses Israel of breaking the truce with the military strikes. President Trump is backing Israel's response, saying this aboard Air Force One.
They took out an Israeli soldier. I just heard about it a little while ago. They killed an Israeli soldier, so the Israelis hit back, and they should hit back. When that happens, they should hit back.
Do you think does that worry you about the ceasefire? Does that jeopardize the ceasefire in any way?
No, nothing's going to jeopardize. You have to understand, Hamas is a very small part of peace in the Middle East, and they have to behave.
The Gulf state of Qatar is also weighing in, expressing confidence that the ceasefire can still hold. The Qatari prime minister says his country is engaged in intense talks with both sides and stressed that Hamas must follow through by returning the bodies of all Israeli hostages. Well, up next, a nation on edge, 40 million Americans facing a food crisis as the government shutdown drags on. Well, welcome back to Faith Nation. It is day 29 of the government shutdown, and pressure's mounting this evening for Congress to pass a measure to reopen the government as tens of millions of Americans face the potential loss of critical food assistance. Joining me now for more, senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London. Michelle, to you first. So Majority Leader John Thune said that he plans to hold the 14th vote to reopen the government Thursday after 13 failed votes. London, are we seeing any light at the end of this tunnel?
Well, John, no break yet in this deadlock, but at this time, I can tell you, federal furloughed workers are being hit the hardest as this shutdown drags on. This week, TSA agents, air traffic controllers, and park rangers, they're among the groups that won't see their paycheck for the hours they've been putting in. And as both political parties battle this out, still no ending in sight. As I mentioned, a spokesperson from the Department of Agriculture says the well has run dry, end quote, when it comes to funding. Democrats are still demanding Republicans join them to extend Obamacare subsidies to keep health insurance premiums from skyrocketing. And during his daily presser, House Speaker Mike Johnson says Republicans are willing to negotiate, but only after Democrats agree to reopen the government. So still the same talking points and pointing fingers at both sides of the aisle. John?
Well, London, as you just mentioned, November 1st is quickly approaching, and that's a date where millions of Americans can see their insurance premiums double or even triple. And that, if I understand correctly, London, has been a sticking point for Democrats.
Well, John, I can tell you two important things are happening on the date of November 1st. One, this is the day open enrollment starts in most states for Affordable Care Act insurance plans. And today, window shopping for health insurance begins for many Americans. It's basically when people log in to see what they're going to pay this year, which are costs. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer told reporters today that could, quote, be devastating. He listed some examples of what Americans may be facing in different states. In Florida, for example, he says a couple making $80,000 a year could be looking at a nearly $4,000 a month health care bill, while people in New Jersey will pay more than 170% in health care costs. Earlier, during a Democrat Senate presser, a number of medical staffers were on the floor. One pediatrician shared what this higher health care cost could mean for her patients. Listen.
The worst consequences of policy choices that force families to choose between medical care for their children and other necessities. I am here to warn you. Congress's inaction is about to unleash an avalanche of suffering on our nation's children.
And John, I'd also like to mention November 1st is also a day the SNAP Nutrition Program, which helps feed more than 40 million people, will start to run out of funds on November 1st. That's according to the USDA. Dozens of states plan to cut off benefits starting then, which is now leading to legal action. As of this report, at least 24 states, John, including New York, California, and even the District of Columbia, are now suing the Trump administration, saying this is cruelty. John.
So, Kelly, to London's point, these states threatening to sue are suing the government as 42 million Americans potentially lose that crucial food assistance. How is the White House responding to the growing pressure here?
So, John, I can tell you that the president, of course, is on his trip to Asia, and he'll be wrapping that up once he meets with China's President Xi. But look, here's the deal that the president is also focused on what's going on back at home, and that's the government shutdown. To be very clear, he's actually been talking about it. He took time out on Air Force One to talk to reporters and still casting blame on the Democrats for the SNAP program, the food stamps program, as well as the government shutdown.
The Democrats have caused the problem on food stamps. They've caused them. All they have to do is sign. And, you know, if they sign, I'll meet with them. They're all saying, well, they actually said Trump is doing an amazing job in this trip. This trip will bring back trillions of dollars, so it's hard. But they do want to meet with me when I get back. But I say get the economy open, and we'll meet. I'll meet, and we'll solve any difficulties. We have to fix health care because Obamacare is a disaster.
So based on that statement to reporters, John, one can see that the president is thinking about the pain for the American people. I remember talking to him about that in the Oval Office. He said the pain wasn't there yet, but to hang in there. I don't think he wants the American people to hang, especially those dealing and reliant on SNAP. When he gets back home, he wants to do exactly what he's talking about, sit down with the Democrats, get the government back open, and actually get the government functioning out of a high function and not dysfunction.
To another point with the economy, American pocketbooks, the Federal Reserve is deciding or has decided to lower interest rates today. The president, of course, has long criticized Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, saying saying that he hasn't moved quickly enough. Kelly, can you remind us of exactly what the president wanted to see? And does this rate lowering at all hit the mark that he's looking for?
So, John, going back to the past, since the president came into office, he's also wanted to see Jerome Powell do exactly what he had hoped for, and that is to lower rates. He felt the interest rates were too high and nicknamed him Jerome Too Late Powell. And he did that even during his meeting yesterday with Asian leaders and saying on Air Force One, too late Jerome Powell. He believes that Jerome Powell has just been too late. But it's hard to say how the president will respond to the fact that today the Fed chair actually lowered the interest rate by 0.25%, which is now between 3.75% and 4%. So the president may see that as an optimistic sign going forward. But he definitely has made his intent known that he wants to see Jerome Powell fall into line, as he says, and actually lower the interest rates.
Kelly, speaking of optimism, the president seems very optimistic about his highly anticipated meeting with China's President Xi Jinping to talk about trade and tariffs. What is the White House hoping to achieve?
John, I have to be very clear about this. This is probably one of the most important meetings the president will have in his presidency, and that is dealing with Xi Jinping, who is the president, of course, of China. This is a very important meeting to work within that framework. The president has to accomplish a couple of things. One, he has to make sure that Xi agrees to stop manufacturing fentanyl, which has devastated the lives of so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans. He must also deal with the soybean crisis for the soybean farmers here at home. A lot of people will be watching that very closely because China, in terms of its being defiant against the United States and those tariffs that the president imposed on China, has actually been reticent in actually not dealing with the soybean farmers. Now, China has always purchased soybeans from soybean farmers. They have not since the tariffs were spiked. And the president, of course, will have to deal with that. The other factor is making sure that our national and economic security is secure. He has to walk away from this meeting with something substantive for the American people to actually keep America on top. You got to realize these are two of the largest economies dealing with each other. They're the two world's greatest superpowers, and they're dealing with each other. Xi wants to be on top. So does President Trump.
A lot of issues to cover, including rare earth minerals and Taiwan. We will be watching, and Kelly, I'm sure you'll be reporting. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London and senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright, thank you so much for your insights tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up, a remarkable discovery now on display at the Museum of the Bible, providing a window into early Christianity right here in the nation's capital. Welcome back. Turning now to a rare glimpse into early Christianity on display right here in Washington's Museum of the Bible. The exhibit features pages from the oldest known copies of the book of Jonah and 1 Peter. My Faith Nation colleague Jenna Browder takes us there for an up-close look.
It's called the Crosby-Scoian Codex.
The word codex is just a fancy word for an ancient book.
A collection of Christian texts dating back 1,800 years.
You would write them on both sides, and then you would stitch these pieces together so that it would feel like we think of as a modern book where you'd have writing on both sides.
The Codex includes parts of the books of Jonah and 1 Peter, as well as 2 Maccabees, a book found in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but not in most Protestant ones.
Here it has Maccabees and it has 1 Peter.
Here at the Museum of the Bible, 7 of about 50 pages are currently on display. Chief Curatorial Officer Dr. Bobby Duke walks us through their new exhibit.
And then here we also again have parts of 2 Maccabees and 1 Peter. And it really is exciting to think the oldest ancient language where we have the complete copy of Jonah and 1 Peter is on this Crosby-Scoian.
And the Codex goes beyond that.
This also included items that were ancient sermons from a man named Melito. We had parts of the book of Maccabees, which is in the Catholic canon. We had other prayers.
Written in the ancient Coptic language, Dr. Duke says while it's unclear who compiled the Codex, we do know it came from some of the earliest Christians.
This dates back to about 250 AD, and that's incredible to think that we have something that's 1,800 years old. A community said, let's put these items together so that we're read, it will inspire this generation of Christians that lived in that part of Egypt.
as for why they put these specific texts together.
Well, it's definitely one that even when you think of Jonah and 1 Peter being woven into this, because those seem random, that those would be put together. But even all of those connect to Christ. Even Jonah, I think in the Gospels, it said, I will be, just like Jonah was 3 days in the belly of the fish, so I will be 3 days in the earth before resurrection. So we seem like this was a compilation of different books put together to help give people encouragement during a time of persecution.
I asked Dr. Duke how these texts apply to us today.
What we just take for granted at times in the modern world, this is something that people suffered and died for. And even something like the Crosby Scollian text is a window into those kinds of moments in church history when you didn't just have your Bible on a YouVersion app or something else that you could just look at any time. It was something that was a labor of love to pass on this teaching and pass on Scripture.
And the Crosby Scollian Codex has been in the hands of many owners over the years. That's where it gets its name. It will be at the Museum of the Bible for the foreseeable future. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thank you, Jenna. Coming up, a marathon runner with an inspiring story. That's up next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, a New York City marathon runner with an extraordinary story. 25-year-old Allie Truitt is running the New York City Marathon this weekend, 2 years after surviving a shark attack. She says her experience in competitive swimming saved her life, even though she had to have her left leg amputated below the knee. Allie didn't let that stop her, though, slowly relearning how to swim and run, eventually winning 2 silver medals swimming for Team USA in the Paralympics. She also started her own nonprofit called Stronger Than You Think.
It is a message of it feels like your life is over, and if you can get your mind around it and use the support around you or whatever is working for you, there is a full and beautiful life ahead.
A beautiful message. Allie's nonprofit focuses on water safety, the Paralympics, and raising money to provide the prosthetics to those in need. We wish her the very best, and truly inspiring, kind of a reminder that there's nothing that can stop you if you put your mind to it. Thanks for watching Faith Nation. We hope to see you again tomorrow night.